to the theme of modernising, I think we could maybe possibly have a word change. Order of British Excellence, or Merit of British Excellence, which sums up the people around the country and my constituents in Brent beautifully. Brent South is one of the most diverse constituencies in the UK. And although I may have some of the poorest wards in the country, I can testify that my constituency is full of richness and ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things every day. And I'm glad that the Queen, in the Queen's speech, acknowledges the rising aspirations of the many and not the few through the Education Opportunity Bill and the new Housing Bill. I was elected in 2005, and it's one of the most proudest moments of my life and my family's. And I promised at my first meeting at School Hall that I would be the voice of young people, and that when I stand in this place that I will make sure that their voices is heard. And that's why I'm really proud today that the government is allowing unclaimed assets to be delivered to improving young people's services across the UK. Over 700 places will be created, totalling more than one in every single constituency, so we all have something to look forward to. And this ensures that young people will have a place to go and something to do in every single constituency. And I remember addressing a group of young people, and one of them said to me, "Why are you so interested in youth issues?" And before I could answer, a young guy jumped up and said, "Because she used to be young once." And I think that's exactly the same school where I was wearing a bright orange suit, and a young girl, literally with tears in her eyes, said, "Miss, do all MPs have to dress like that?" Now, Mr. Speaker, as offended as I might have been, after all, it was quite an expensive suit. It's time we stop demonising young people. All this constant talk about gangs. Mr. Speaker, I witnessed a gang mentality just a month ago, when a group of mainly white men heckled and jeered, in unison at times, and the leader started stabbing his middle finger in the direction of the other side. And he went on to angrily point this finger and gouge the other side, who duly responded with insults and jeers to match. And Mr. Speaker, I felt inclined to join in. After all, it was PMQs. So, Mr. Speaker, we should be careful how we label. And I think the Youth Week, as outlined in the Aim High for Young People, the 10-year strategy, will help the media and the public and politicians gain a greater understanding of young people and their culture. Because we need people to understand. We need people to understand that politics matters. When our Prime Minister took action to secure debt relief, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't a question of some figures on a balance sheet. It was a question of shifting the balance on the scales of justice. And he moved them in favour of the poorest. But some debts cannot be easily written off, and one such debt is the enslavement of 13 million Africans. And as we approach the end of the bicentenary of the abolition of the Slave Trade Act, I know our legacy will be to teach an objective history as part of the curriculum. And I hope we will also commemorate slavery each year as we do the Holocaust. The National Armed Forces Memorial in Staffordshire, which the Prime Minister visited to pay his respects to all those who have lost their lives in past and present wars, makes this year's remembrance very special. And I wear my poppy with pride, like all members of the House. We must also remember all of our young people who have needlessly lost their lives to gun and knife crime. These proposals outlined today will, in practice, help to make our community safer. I've seen the Youth Opportunity Fund and the Youth Capital Fund work in Brent. I have seen the difference that it makes. And I think, Mr. Speaker, that my constituents would want me to take this opportunity to bring to the House the attention and particularly the energy and creativity of the young people in Brent. I've seen the work commitment, the dedication and the pride on the young people's faces when their project is completed. I've spoken to many kids on the streets, and they say that they want things to do and places to go, and an education that will give them a good job. But imagine my surprise when the Youth Parliament, which I helped set up, came to Westminster and voted to stay on at school beyond the age of 16. When I was at school, it wasn't so much as me wanting to leave, as the teachers hoping that I would. They couldn't think of a profession where I could be mouthy and argumentative. Hey, well, here I am. Mr. Speaker, for the first time, we've had a pre-legislative draft, which has helped us prepare for today. It means that we can quickly progress with the implementation of the Health and Social Care Bill. It means we can commit to a continued investment in the NHS, which is 60 next year. and that we have a real belief in the aspirations of all the people of this country. We have so much to do, but we must not shy away from the great work Labour has done for our country. There's 600,000 children out of poverty, 19,700 in Brent alone, the minimum wage of over £5 an hour, the winter fuel benefit, 11,600 benefited in Brent, and I could go on and on.
Go on.
But I'd like to end, Mr. Speaker, as tempting as it is to go on, in saying that 10 years ago, as a trade union official, I had colleagues who travelled in car boots just to get in to speak to members and to recruit new ones. I witnessed firsthand how a Labour government changed people's lives for the better. We stopped riding in boots of cars and finally walking through the front door. It's a memory that will last with me forever. My members, some earning only £2.50 an hour, felt empowered having their trade union official by their side. I was a young, idealistic activist trying to change the world. And although I hope I haven't changed that much in 10 years, maybe a few grey hairs and a dodgy orange suit, I'm very grateful that this country has changed. And Mr. Speaker, I really am one of the youngest members of the House. And I hope that young people watching proceedings today are inspired, not just by our democracy, but by the sense that they too can be a part of it. If anybody hearing our speeches today or reading about them tomorrow questions whether politics works or whether it matters, I say to them, cynicism didn't create the welfare state. Indifference didn't introduce the minimum wage or bring peace to Northern Ireland. Apathy didn't end debt slavery for the world's poorest people or give our most valuable pensioners dignity in their retirement. It was politics that did that. That's the difference that politics makes. The strength of self-belief, the dignity of truth, and the engagement of politics, these things can turn slaves into free people. And I dedicate this speech to my ancestors and all the people who gave their tomorrows for our todays. Mr. Speaker, I commend this gracious speech to the House.
Order. The question is that a humble address be presented to Her Majesty as